By-elections to the 41st Canadian Parliament are held to fill vacancies in the House of Commons of Canada since the 2011 federal election. The 41st Canadian Parliament is the current Parliament of Canada, with the membership of its House of Commons having been determined by the results of the Canadian federal election held on May 2, 2011. The Conservative Party of Canada has a majority government during this Parliament. Thus far, one by-election was held in March 2012, 3 more in November 2012, 1 in May 2013, and 4 were held November 25, 2013. 4 more by-elections were held on June 30, 2014 in Macleod, Fort McMurray Athabasca, Trinity Spadina, and Scarborough for Agincourt. A by-election for an additional vacancy, in Whitby Oshawa, has yet to be called. A further by-election was to be called following an Ontario Superior Court decision voiding the result in Athabasca Centre, but the Supreme Court of Canada overturned that ruling on October 25, 2012, upholding the original election result. By-elections must be called within 180 days of the Chief Electoral Officer being officially notified of a vacancy. Overview: March 19, 2012 by-election. A by-election was held on March 19, 2012 in Toronto Danforth, to fill a vacancy in the House of Commons caused by the death of NDP leader Jack Layton. Governor-General David Johnston, acting on the advice of Prime Minister Stephen Harper, issued the writ of election for the by-election on February 6. Toronto Danforth. The riding of Toronto Danforth had been vacant since August 22, 2011, when Jack Layton, leader of the New Democratic Party, died of cancer. November 26, 2012 by-elections. By-elections were held on November 26, 2012, in Calgary Centre following the resignation of Conservative MP Lee Richardson, in Durham as a result of the resignation of Conservative MP Bev Oda, and in Victoria following the resignation of Deputy Speaker and NDP MP Denise Savoy. Calgary Centre. The riding of Calgary Centre was vacated on May 30, 2012, when Conservative MP Lee Richardson resigned to accept a position as Principal Secretary to Alberta Premier Alison Redford. The Conservative Party had a contested nomination, with several candidates quickly entering the contest including local alderman John Marr, newspaper columnist and political pundit Joan Crockett, businessman Jordan Katz, former PCMLA John Lord, and MP Richardson's former campaign manager Stefan Spargo. Late entrants to the Conservative nomination included Quebec Regional Party organizer and former PMO staff member Joe Soers, lawyer and current National Party Policy Committee member Rick Billington, and venture capitalist Greg McLean, the immediate past president of the Calgary Centre Riding Association. On July 25, Marr withdrew from the nomination race, citing future time spent in Ottawa away from his family as the major reason. Katz also withdrew from the race in late July. The nomination meeting was held on August 25, with Crockett winning the nomination vote. The Liberal Party held a nomination meeting on September 22, which was contested by 4 candidates. Early candidates in the race included conservationist and lawyer Harvey Locke and high school teacher Raheem Sajjan. Several weeks before the nomination meeting, both businessman Drew Atkins and former Conservative Steve Turner entered the nomination race. At the meeting on September 22, Locke won the nomination. Calgary-based author and Green Party candidate Chris Turner and Liberal MLA David Swan stated a desire for all progressives in Calgary Centre to unite around a single candidate. However, Swan dismissed numerous appeals to be the united progressive candidate, and Green Party leader Elizabeth May expressed hopes that her party's candidate would win the seat outright. David Swan ultimately endorsed Harvey Locke. Durham. The constituency of Durham became vacant on July 31, 2012, when former Conservative Minister Bev Oda resigned from Parliament. The nomination race for the Conservative nomination in Durham was between retired Canadian Forces captain and lawyer Erin O'Toole, former provincial Liberal Chris Topple, and Thomas Coughlin, a former aide to Finance Minister Jim Flaherty. O'Toole was acclaimed as the Conservative candidate on August 29. Beaumontville resident Grant Humes, the Liberal candidate in the last election, ran again, while the NDP nominated Larry O'Connor, a former member of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario and former Mayor of Brock. Victoria, on August 23, 2012, Denise Savoy, NDP MP for Victoria since 2006, announced that she would be resigning her seat effective August 31. Savoy, who held the position of Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons at the time of her announcement, cited health reasons as the key cause of her resignation. Prominent environmental lawyer Murray Rankin was nominated as the NDP candidate on October 14. Other Victoria NDP nomination contenders were Elizabeth Cull, a former provincial finance and health minister, former Victoria School Board trustee Charlie Beresford, and Victoria City Councillor Ben Isett. Dale Gann was acclaimed as the Conservative nominee. Paul Somerville, former investment banker and previously unsuccessful New Democratic Party candidate in the Toronto riding of St. Paul's, was acclaimed as the Liberal nominee on October 13. The Greens initially nominated Trevor Moat over UVic law professor Donald Galloway on September 29. The vote was a tie and decided by a coin toss. On October 1 Moat stepped down in favour of Galloway. A key issue during the by-election campaign was the status of the city's proposed new sewage treatment plan. Several candidates expressed opposition to the cost of the project, as well as concerns about the environmental benefits. Rankin was the only candidate who supported the plan in its current form, while Galloway argued that it was insufficient and needed to be revised. Gann supported the plan at the start of the by-election campaign but later withdrew his support, and Somerville argued that the plan was simply a billion-dollar make-work project. May 13, 2013 by-election, Labrador. In 2011, Conservative Peter Panache defeated sitting Liberal MP Todd Russell by 79 votes, making Labrador one of the closest races in that election. On March 14, 2013, Panache, by then the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs and President of the Queen's Privy Council for Canada, resigned from Cabinet and from his seat with the intention to run again in a by-election. The resignation followed reports of an ineligible donation of $30,000 to his 2011 campaign. Panache blamed the error on a campaign volunteer, paid back the money, and announced his intention to run for re-election in a press release. He was confirmed as the Conservative Party's candidate for the by-election the same day. His Liberal opponent was Yvonne Jones, a member of the provincial legislature who was previously the province's leader of the opposition. The NDP candidate was researcher Harry Boulez, and the Libertarian candidate was Norman Andrews. The Greens did not run a candidate so as to not split the vote in an attempt to help defeat Panache. November 25, 2013 by-elections. On October 20, 2013, Prime Minister Harper announced that 4 pending by-elections will be held on November 25. Barossa. On May 16, 2013, Liberal MP Dennis Cotter announced he would resign his Barossa seat on June 2, to run for Mayor of Montreal. The Chief Electoral Officer received official notification of the vacancy on June 3, 2013 and the by-election had to be called by November 30, 2013. A date of November 25, 2013 has been set for the vote. The Federal Liberals chose their candidate on September 8. Lawyer Joseph Diario ran for the nomination, as did Quebec MNA Favion, Emmanuel Duberg, who resigned his seat in the National Assembly of Quebec in order to do so. Ultimately, Duberg won the nomination. Larry Rousseau, Regional Executive Vice President for the Public Service Alliance of Canada, past NDP candidate Julie Damers, a community activist who works with co-ops, and PSAC staff rep Mario Leclerc sought the NDP nomination, losing to Juno Award-winning singer-star copyright Fane Morel of the band Brandvan 3000. The Blockway Copyright Bar Copyright Choir selected Daniel Durenlow as its nominee. Former NHL star and deputy leader of the Green Party Georges Laraque had been announced as the party's candidate in Barossa, but stepped down as both the candidate and deputy leader of the Green Party when it was revealed he was facing fraud charges. Danny Polifony, who had run for the party in Papineau in 2011, was named the Green candidate instead. Engineer Ryder Mahmood was acclaimed as the Conservative nominee. Provencher, Minister of Public Safety Vic Toulouse resigned from cabinet and is an MP effective July 9, 2013, to spend more time with his family and join the private sector. The Chief Electoral Officer received official notification of the vacancy on July 15, 2013. On October 20, 2013, the by-election date of November 25, 2013, was announced. Despite rumours that Steinbach MLA Kelvin Gertsen and Deputy Mayor of Steinbach Michael Zaagstra would run for the Conservative nomination, both decided not to, and instead endorsed Steinbach Credit Union President Ted Falk, who won the nomination by acclamation. Former parliamentary page Natalie Corsels-Beedry, who also works in the constituency office of Dawson Trail MLA Ron Lemure, was the only declared candidate for the NDP nomination, which was decided on October 20. The only declared candidate for the Liberal nomination was riding President Terry Haywood, who resigned his position in order to seek the nomination. Haywood had previously run as the Liberal candidate in the 2011 federal election. Haywood was acclaimed as the Liberal nominee on September 25, 2013. The Green Party chose former candidate Janine Gibson as its nominee. Toronto Centre, on June 19, 2013, former interim Liberal Party leader Bob Rae announced he would resign his Toronto Centre seat to become a First Nations negotiator in Ontario. His resignation became effective July 31, 2013. The Chief Electoral Officer received official notification of the vacancy on August 6, 2013. On October 20, 2013, the by-election date of November 25, 2013 was announced. Journalist, author and pundit Tricia Freeland was nominated as the Liberal candidate defeating Todd Ross, a former senior advisor to former Ontario Health Minister George Smith-Erman, and Diana Burke, former Chief Information Security Officer at Royal Bank Financial Group. On July 29, former MPP for the provincial electoral district of the same name and 2010 mayoral candidate George Smith-Erman announced he will not seek the Liberal nomination. Columnist and author Linda McQuaig is the New Democratic Party's candidate, having defeated former CBC producer and Much Music host Jennifer Hollett, and transgender rights and social housing activist Susan Gapka for the nomination. Lawyer Jeff Pollock was acclaimed as the Conservative Party of Canada's nominee, as no one else ran for the nomination, and former Toronto Star journalist John Deverell was named the Green Party's nominee. The Pirate Party candidate was party leader Travis McMurray. However, on October 13, McMurray pulled out of the race and resigned from his position as party leader, citing a need to address his depression. Brandon Eurosaurus, on August 12, 2013, Merv Tweed, Conservative MP for Brandon Eurosaurus, announced his resignation effective August 31. On October 20, 2013, the by-election date of November 25, 2013 was announced. Candidates for the Conservative nomination initially included Tweed's former executive assistant Chris Kennedy, Brandon City Councillor and Deputy Mayor Len Islafson, and Arthur Verdun MLA Larry Maguire. Kennedy's nomination papers were rejected, while Islafson withdrew, resulting in Maguire winning the nomination by acclamation. Candidates for the NDP nomination were 2008 and 2011 candidate Jean-Luc Boucher Copyright, and Labour Council President Cory Szczepanski. Szczepanski ultimately won the nomination. Candidates for the Green nomination were CFIA Food Inspector Lane Toplesky, greenhouse owner David Neufeld, and retiree Linwood Walker. Neufeld ultimately won the nomination. The candidates for the Liberal nomination were Rolf Dinsdale, media executive and son of former Progressive Conservative MP Walter Dinsdale, who represented the riding from 1951 to 1982, and Killarney Turtle Mountain Marek Pauls, who had initially announced that he would run as an independent. Pauls, a card-carrying Conservative, left the party citing his disgust with the Conservative nomination process. Former U.S. Marine Frank Godon, who had previously run for the presidency of the Manitoba Mar Copyrighters Federation, also announced his candidacy, but withdrew from the nomination race on September 20. Dinsdale ultimately won the nomination, while Godon returned to the race as the candidate for the Libertarian Party of Canada. although public opinion polling during the campaign gave Dinsdale a significant lead over Maguire, with Dinsdale holding a 14-point lead in a Forum Research poll just a few days before the by-election. Maguire in fact narrowly won the final vote count. The discrepancy between the polls and the final result led to a renewed debate about the quality of public opinion polling in Canada. June 30, 2014 by-elections. On May 11, 2014, Prime Minister Harper announced that 4 out of the 5 pending by-elections would be held on June 30. Macleod, Conservative MP Ted Menzies announced on November 6, 2013, that he was resigning his seat that day after 9 years in Parliament. He was Minister of State for Finance from 2011 until July 2, 2013, when he resigned announcing that he would not be a candidate in the next election. Candidates for the Conservative nomination included John Barlow, who ran for the provincial PCs in Highwood during the 2012 Alberta general election, rancher and farmer Phil Rowland, former parliamentary staffer Melissa Matheson, and businessman Scott Wagner. Barlow ultimately won the nomination. Dustin Fuller was the only declared candidate to run for the Liberal nomination, and was thus nominated by acclamation. Larry Ashmore was nominated by the Greens. Eileen Burke was nominated by the NDP. David J. Rimmer, interim leader of the Christian Heritage Party, was his party's candidate. Fort McMurray Athabasca, Conservative MP Brian Jean announced on January 10, 2014, that he was resigning his seat effective January 17 after a decade in Parliament. David Yodiga, the Deputy Reeve for Athabasca County, and lawyer Arlen Delisle both ran for the Conservative nomination, which Yodiga ultimately won. Other potential candidates had included former firefighter Brad Griner, former Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo MLA Guy Boutilier, Layla Goodridge, constituency assistant for Calgary Centre MP Joan Crockett, and Wood Buffalo councillor Phil Maher. Suncor Energy employee Laurie McDaniel is the NDP candidate. Former Liberal staffer and Fort McMurray copyrightist local 1935 manager Carl Harrietha ran for the party's nomination, as did active International Union of Operating Engineers local 955 member Chris Flett. Other potential candidates had included Joanne Roberts, Director of Public Affairs, Industry Relations and Economic Development for Fort McMurray, former Fort McMurray councillor Colleen Tatum, and President of the Fort Mackay copyrightist local 63 Ron Quintal. Harrietha ultimately won the nomination. Brian Doherty was nominated by the Green Party. Firefighter Tim Mon is the Libertarian candidate, marking the first time the party has run a candidate in the region. Mon was later named Libertarian Party leader. Trinity Spadina, and NDP MP Olivia Chow resigned her downtown Toronto Trinity Spadina seat on March 12, 2014, to run in the 2014 Toronto mayoral election in a bid to unseat incumbent Mayor of Toronto Rob Ford. Chow had held the seat since 2006. Joe Cressy, director of the Stephen Lewis Foundation and a past campaign manager for Olivia Chow, sought the NDP nomination. Other potential candidates for the NDP nomination had included journalist and author Linda McQuaig, Toronto City Councillor Adam Vaughan, and former City Councillor Joe Pantalone. Toronto City Councillor Mike Layton and former CBC producer and Much Music host Jennifer Hollett were also rumoured, but announced they would not run. Cressy ultimately won the nomination by acclamation. Toronto City Councillor Adam Vaughan, who had been rumoured as a possible NDP candidate, is the Liberal nominee. Ryan Davey and Christine Tabbitt, who ran as the Liberal candidate in Renfrew Nipissing Pembroke during the 2011 election, had both entered the nomination but subsequently withdrew from the race. Labour lawyer and former Now magazine editor Glenn Wheeler had also expressed interest in the Liberal nomination, though ultimately decided not to run. Christine Innes, who was the Liberal candidate in 2008 and 2011, as well as the wife of former MP Tony Ianno, had announced her candidacy for the Liberal nomination but was disqualified by Liberal leader Justin Trudeau after complaints that her campaign team had engaged in intimidation and bullying after rejecting a request that if she is elected in the by-election she commit to running in the future riding of Spadina Fort York when Trinity Spadina is abolished in the next general election. rather than on Rosedale where MP Tricia Freeland intends to stand. Camille Abcook was nominated by the Green Party. Benjamin Sharma was nominated by the Conservatives. Linda Gross, an anti-abortion advocate who also goes by the name Linda Gibbons, announced her intention to run as a Christian Heritage Party candidate. Scarborough for Agincourt. On April 1, 2014, longtime Liberal Member of Parliament Jim Carey-Giannis announced his resignation to run in the Toronto municipal election, 2014 to replace Mike Delgrand. Carey-Giannis had held the seat of Scarborough for Agincourt since 1988. Arnold Chan, a lawyer and former aide to Dalton McGuinty won the Liberal nomination defeating Nicholas Mantlers, Carey-Giannis' former constituency assistant. Murali Srinathas had also ran for the nomination, though withdrew prior to the vote. The Conservative Party nominated Trevor Ellis as their candidate on May 3, 2014. Elizabeth Long was nominated by the NDP. Shahbaz Mir will stand for the Green Party, while Kevin Clark will stand as an independent. Pending, Whitby Oshawa. On April 10, 2014, former Minister of Finance Jim Flaherty died in Ottawa, creating a vacancy in his riding. A by-election must be called by October 25, 2014. The minimum length of a campaign is 36 days. There is no maximum length under the law. Prior to her entry into the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario leadership election, one rumoured candidate for the Conservative nomination was Christine Elliott, Flaherty's widow in the MPP for the provincial riding of the same name. Selena Caesar Chavans, the president of Resolve Research Solutions Incorporated, a clinical trials management service she co-founded with her husband in 2004, was acclaimed as the Liberal nominee on July 17, 2014. See also, List of federal by-elections in Canada, references.